The graves are for words left unsaid and deeds left undone. How does death help us prioritize what we focus on in life? Since we really don't understand death, and it is not a pleasant topic, nor an experience most of us want to have anytime soon, or want our loved ones to have, we avoid talking about it. Avoiding the topic and pushing it out of our minds gives us the false sense that we will live forever and have an infinite amount of life, so to speak. This is where the problem begins. When we feel like we and our loved ones will live forever, by avoiding the topic of death in any way or form, then we naturally take everyone and everything that is not important to us and place them on top of our priority lists and move everything and everyone that is important to the bottom of our list. Our focus is now directed towards the top of the list, to those that matter less to us. We do this because the people we love and that love us back have a greater tolerance level and breaking point with us. We can push the boundaries of that love a lot before the cracks start to show or before it breaks. For example, a person can keep coming home late from work every day for weeks and miss family dinners, but it's going to take a lot more than that before their spouse leaves them. Some parents physically hit their child, and a week later the child will say to them, "I love you, Daddy." Because they have a higher breaking point, there is little impetus to focus on them, as you know they will tolerate your lack of prioritization and focus on them. After all, in your mind, they will be around forever, so why focus on them now? You can pay attention to them later, when work settles down, when you have more time, after the football game, and more. In contrast, people like your clients or co-workers, and others that you are not indeed very close to, will not hang around too long if you ignore them. Stop returning your clients' calls, and they will move on to someone else. Skip too many nights out with your boss, and you may not get that promotion you have been hoping for. These people have a much lower tolerance for your inattention, or a lower breaking point, and if you push those boundaries too much, they will be out of your life very quickly. And because of this, they often become the top priorities in your life. All of this holds true if you avoid realizing death, the fact that life is finite, and we all die. But once you realize that life is finite, your priorities change. Often, in my in-person workshops, I create a hypothetical situation by saying, if someone were to walk into this room and say that everyone in this room had 3 hours to live, how many of you would stay for the rest of my workshop? Sadly, no one in all the workshops I've conducted around the world has ever said, I would. The answer is always, I'd leave right now and go home to see my spouse and kids. I then ask, if your favorite store was having its biggest annual sale, would you stop by on your way home to buy something? The answer is always no. I continue my inquiry and ask, if someone you did not like was calling you, would you pick up the phone and talk to them? Again, the answer is no. I persist and ask, would you stop by a cafe and stand in line for 20 minutes to buy one last cup of latte? Again, a straight, clear no. When you shrink time, you increase the clarity of focus. None of the participants ever spent any time thinking about what they would do if they had 3 hours to live. They instantaneously knew who and what they wanted to focus on. When you shrink the time you think you have in this life, you increase the clarity of focus, allowing you to know who and what is important in your life, and what order of priority they all fall into. All of a sudden, you know precisely who and what to focus on. When I asked my audience, if you had 50 years to live, who would leave this workshop? No one raised their hands. I continued and asked, if you had 20 years to live, who would leave this workshop? A couple of people raised their hands. I asked again, shrinking the time frame even shorter. If you had 5 years to live, who would leave this workshop? A lot more hands went up. Finally, I asked, if you had 3 hours to live, who would leave this workshop? Every hand in the room went up. As their time shrank, they inevitably became clearer on who and what is important to them. The simple mental act of shrinking time allowed them to very quickly bring to the surface of their mind who the most important people and things in their lives are. Their priorities in life became evident swiftly. You have to squeeze the orange to get the juice. Death drives one to the realization of one's priorities in life. Priorities drive focus. Once you realize that life is finite and have the clarity of who and what is important in your life, then you know precisely where to direct your focus. This realization shifts your perspective and causes you to live a different way, a way that focuses on your true priorities and as a result, creates a happy and fulfilled life. Death can provide tremendous clarity on life and is ultimately the greatest impetus for leading a focused life.